The buzzing of my phone dragged me from sleep at 3:17 a.m. In my 5 years as Adrian Cole's executive assistant, I'd never once called him outside business hours. Not when I'd caught the flu and worked through it anyway. Not when my apartment flooded and I'd slept at the office. Not even when his previous assistant quit mid-crisis, and I'd pulled 3 consecutive all-nighters to keep his empire from imploding. But tonight, sitting on a metal bench in the West Side precinct, mascara streaked down my cheeks and my white blouse torn at the shoulder, I had no choice. "This is your one call, sweetheart," the officer said, his tone dripping with condescension. His name tag read, Officer Martinez, and I'd already called him several creative names I'd regret in the morning. My fingers trembled as I dialed the number I knew by heart. Each ring felt like an eternity. He probably wouldn't answer. Why would he? It was 3 a.m., and I was just his secretary. Efficient, invisible, perfectly professional Amelia Chen, who never put a foot wrong. This better be important. His voice was rough with sleep, but still carried that edge of absolute authority that made grown men stammer. "Mr. Cole," my voice cracked. "I'm so sorry to wake you, but I'm at the West Side precinct and they said I could make one call and I don't have anyone else and—" "Slow down." The sleep had vanished from his voice, replaced by laser focus. "You're where?" "West Side Police Station." I swallowed hard, tasting blood from where I'd bitten my lip during the fight. "There was an incident at McLaren's bar. They're saying I assaulted someone, but that's not— I mean, technically I did hit her, but she started it and— Don't say anything else." His command was sharp. Not to the officers, not to anyone. "I'll be there in 20 minutes." The line went dead. I stared at the phone, my alcohol-fogged brain struggling to process what had just happened. Adrian Cole, the man who terrified senators and made business rivals disappear, was coming to bail out his drunk secretary at 3 a.m. "Well?" Officer Martinez raised an eyebrow. "Your boyfriend coming to save you?" "He's not my boyfriend," I snapped, then immediately regretted my tone. "He's my employer." Must be some employer to pick up at 3 a.m. The officer's smirk made me want to throw my remaining heel at his balding head. I'd called him a tyrannical chrome dome earlier, not my finest moment. The precinct was a study in institutional beige. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting everyone in an unflattering pallor. The air smelled of burnt coffee, floor cleaner, and the faint acrid scent of vomit from the drunk tank down the hall. My hands were sticky with the residue of fingerprint ink, and I could feel every bruise forming on my knuckles from when I'd connected with that woman's jaw. What was her name? Sarah? Sandra? She'd been all over Marcus, my ex, who I'd specifically come to McLaren's to avoid. But there they were, his hands on her waist, his mouth on her neck, the same neck I used to kiss goodnight. 5 months since our breakup, and seeing him with someone new had shattered something in me I'd thought was already broken. I'd handled it so well, too. Ordered a drink, turned away, tried to leave. But she'd followed me to the bathroom, made some comment about pathetic exes who couldn't move on. And suddenly, I was seeing red. The next thing I knew, security was pulling me off her, and I had her earring tangled in my hair. Not my finest hour, or my second finest. Possibly rock bottom. The precinct doors burst open with such force that everyone turned. Adrian Cole strode in like he owned the building, and given his connections, he might have. Even at 3 a.m., wearing dark jeans and a black Henley instead of his usual 3-piece suit, he radiated power. His dark hair was slightly mussed, jaw shadowed with stubble, gray eyes sharp despite the hour. He was the most beautiful, terrifying man I'd ever seen, and I'd been half in love with him for 3 years. "Where is she?" His voice carried across the precinct with casual authority. Officer Martinez straightened immediately. "Mr. Cole, I didn't realize—" "Where is she?" I raised my hand weakly from my bench. "Here." Adrian's gaze found mine, and something flickered in those storm-gray eyes. Surprise? Concern? Anger? With Adrian, it was always impossible to tell. He crossed to me in 3 long strides, his presence overwhelming in the small space. Amelia? My name on his lips sent a shiver through me. He'd always called me Miss Chen at work. Hearing my first name felt oddly intimate. What happened? I may have punched someone. The words came out smaller than intended. May have? Definitely punched someone. I gestured at my torn blouse, the bruise forming on my cheekbone. She had it coming. Something that might have been amusement crossed his face before he turned to Officer Martinez. What are the charges? Assault and battery, public intoxication, disturbing the peace. Drop them. Adrian's tone left no room for argument. Mr. Cole, I can't just... Adrian pulled out his phone, tapped the screen twice, and held it to his ear. Judge Morrison. Yes, I know what time it is. I need a favor. Pause. West Side Precinct. My assistant had an unfortunate misunderstanding with another patron at McLaren's. I'd like the charges dismissed. Another pause, during which Adrian's eyes never left mine. I thought you might see it that way. I'll make sure that donation to your wife's charity doubles this quarter. He ended the call and looked at Martinez. The charges will be dropped within the hour. I'm taking her home now. Mr. Cole, I still need to process her in the morning if you must. Adrian's voice went cold. But she's leaving with me now. Unless you'd like to explain to Judge Morrison why you're holding his goddaughter overnight on charges he's already indicated he'll dismiss. I wasn't Judge Morrison's goddaughter. I'd met the man exactly once at a charity gala. But Martinez didn't know that, and his face paled as he nodded quickly. Of course, Mr. Cole. Let me just get the paperwork. 5 minutes later, I was stumbling out of the precinct on Adrian's arm, my broken heel making me list to one side. The October air was sharp and cold, shocking after the stuffy warmth of the station. Adrian's black Mercedes waited at the curb, engine running, his driver Victor behind the wheel. I can take a cab, I mumbled, but Adrian was already guiding me into the back seat. You're drunk, injured, and it's 3 a.m. You're not taking a cab. He slid in beside me, and Victor pulled smoothly into traffic. The car smelled like leather and Adrian's cologne, something expensive and woodsy that I'd never been able to identify. I pressed my forehead against the cool window, watching the city lights blur past. I'm sorry, I whispered. I never should have called you. I didn't have anyone else. Don't apologize. His voice was softer than I'd ever heard it. That's what I'm here for. You're my boss, not my emergency contact. Tonight I'm both. The warmth of his body beside me, the safety of the car, the crash from adrenaline and alcohol, it all hit at once. I turned to look at him, really look at him, without the careful professional distance I usually maintained. You're so beautiful, I heard myself say. Did you know that? It's incredibly inconvenient. How am I supposed to focus on quarterly reports when you're sitting there looking like some kind of dark angel? His eyes widened fractionally. Amelia, and intimidating. I was on a roll now, 5 years of professional restraint crumbling. So intimidating. Do you know I practiced my morning greeting for 3 weeks when I first started working for you? Good morning, Mr. Cole. And I must have said it 1,000 times in my mirror because I was terrified I'd stutter or say something stupid, and you'd fire me on the spot. I would never... And your hands. I grabbed his hand, studying his long fingers, the calluses that spoke of more physical work than most executives did. I think about these hands more than is professionally appropriate. What they'd feel like. How they'd... I stopped myself, some dim part of my brain screaming that I needed to shut up. That I'd already said too much. That Monday morning was going to be a nightmare. But Adrian was looking at me with an expression I'd never seen before. Intent. Focused. Almost hungry. Amelia, he said carefully. You're drunk. Very drunk, I agreed. Which is why I'm finally telling you the truth. I've been in love with you for 3 years, 2 months, and I checked my watch. Approximately 14 hours, give or take. His jaw clenched. You don't mean that. I absolutely mean that. I leaned closer, my hand still holding his. I mean that every time you walk past my desk, every time you say my name, every time you smile, which isn't often enough, by the way. You should smile more. You're devastating when you smile. You won't remember this in the morning. Probably not. I was close enough now to feel his breath on my face, which is why I'm going to do this while I still have the courage. I grabbed his tie, except he wasn't wearing a tie, so I grabbed his shirt instead and pulled him to me. For half a second he resisted. Then his hand came up to cup the back of my head, and he kissed me back. It was nothing like I'd imagined. Better and worse simultaneously. His mouth was firm and demanding, tasting like coffee and something darker. His other hand found my waist, pulling me closer despite the awkward angle in the car. I made a sound that would have embarrassed me if I'd been sober, and he swallowed it, deepening the kiss until I forgot where I ended, and he began. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, his eyes were nearly black with desire. That was a mistake, he said, but his hand was still tangled in my hair. Best mistake I ever made, I mumbled. And then the car stopped and the world tilted sideways and everything went black. I woke to sunlight stabbing through my eyelids like tiny knives. My head throbbed with each heartbeat. My mouth tasted like I'd been chewing on wool, and every muscle in my body ached. This was not my bed. These were not my sheets. This was definitely not my ceiling. I sat up too quickly, and the room spun. Expensive sheets, masculine bedroom, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. I was wearing an oversized t-shirt that definitely wasn't mine, and my work clothes were folded neatly on a nearby chair. Oh God. Oh God. I was in Adrian Cole's bedroom. The door opened, and he walked in carrying a tray with coffee, water, and what looked like painkillers. He was freshly showered, wearing dark slacks and a white dress shirt, looking like he'd gotten 8 hours of sleep instead of being up half the night dealing with his drunk secretary. You're awake. His voice was carefully neutral. How do you feel? Like I got hit by a truck. I took the water and pills he offered, downing both gratefully. What? What happened? You don't remember? Fragments came back. The fight, the precinct, the car, his cologne. Had I kissed him? Some of it's fuzzy, I lied, because I absolutely remembered kissing him, and I wanted to die. You had too much to drink. He set the tray on the nightstand. I brought you here because I didn't think you should be alone. You slept in my guest room. Guest room. Right. That's where I was. Not his room. I'm so sorry, Mr. Cole. This is completely unprofessional, and I understand if you want me to resign. Don't. The command was sharp. We'll discuss what happened Monday. Today is Saturday. You're going to rest, eat something, and recover. Victor will drive you home this afternoon. He moved toward the door, and panic seized me. Did I say anything? The question came out before I could stop it. Last night, in the car. Did I say anything? Inappropriate? Adrian paused, his back to me. When he turned, his expression was unreadable. You said a lot of things, Amelia. None of which we need to discuss right now. Which meant I had. Which meant I'd confessed. Which meant Monday was going to be a nightmare. Get some rest, he said, and then he was gone, leaving me alone with my humiliation and the lingering taste of his kiss. Monday morning arrived with the inevitability of an execution. I'd spent the entire weekend rehearsing what I'd say to Adrian. Professional apologies. Assurances that it would never happen again. A carefully worded offer to resign, if he felt my behavior had compromised our working relationship. What I hadn't prepared for was walking into the office to find a massive bouquet of white peonies on my desk. My favorite flower, though I'd never told him that. And a handwritten note in Adrian's distinctive scrawl. "We need to talk. My office." 9 a.m. I checked my watch. 8:47. 13 minutes to prepare for the most mortifying conversation of my professional life. The executive floor was quieter than usual, most people not arriving until 9:30. I sat at my desk, staring at those peonies, trying to remember if I'd ever mentioned my favorite flower in his presence. Had I? Or had he simply noticed? "Miss Chen." Adrian's voice came from his doorway, startling me. "You're early." "I'm always early, Mr. Cole." I stood, smoothing my navy pencil skirt with hands that only trembled slightly. I'd chosen my most conservative outfit. High-necked blouse, sensible heels, hair pulled back in a severe bun, armor against the memory of Saturday night. "So you are." His gray eyes tracked over me, assessing. "Come in." I followed him into his office, that familiar space that now felt charged with dangerous electricity. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city. His desk was massive mahogany, always immaculately organized. The leather chair where I'd sat countless times taking dictation suddenly seemed like enemy territory. He closed the door behind us. The soft click felt final. "Sit." He gestured to one of the chairs facing his desk, but instead of sitting behind it in his usual power position, he leaned against the front edge. Close. Too close. I could smell his cologne. "Mr. Cole, I want to apologize for Friday night. My behavior was completely inappropriate. Do you remember what you said to me?" His voice was low, controlled. "In the car?" Heat flooded my face. "Some of it." "Which parts?" I stared at my hands, enough to be thoroughly embarrassed. "You told me you'd been in love with me for 3 years. It wasn't a question. You kissed me. Then you passed out, and I brought you to my home because I couldn't leave you alone in that condition. I understand if you want my resignation." "I don't want your resignation, Amelia." He moved closer, and I forced myself to meet his eyes. "I want to know if you meant it." My heart hammered against my ribs. I was drunk. "That's not an answer. Mr. Cole, Adrian." The correction was firm. "When we're alone, you call me Adrian." The intimacy of his first name on my tongue felt dangerous. "This isn't appropriate." Nothing about Friday night was appropriate. He crouched down, bringing himself to eye level with me. This close, I could see the faint scar on his jaw, the silver threaded through his dark hair at the temples. "But it happened, so I'm asking you, sober and in the light of day, did you mean what you said?" I could lie, should lie, protect my job, my dignity, the careful professional relationship we'd built over 5 years. "Yes." The word came out as a whisper. I meant it. Something shifted in his expression. Triumph mixed with something darker, more possessive. "Good. Because I've been half in love with you since you told Senator Marsh his concerns about my business practices were thinly veiled extortion attempts, and suggested he find a less transparent way to solicit bribes." I blinked. That was 2 years ago. 2 years, 4 months, and 6 days. His hand came up to cup my face, thumb stroking my cheekbone with devastating gentleness. "I've wanted you for so long, Amelia, but you were my assistant. I was your employer. The power dynamic was impossible." "It's still impossible," I breathed, even as I leaned into his touch. "Is it?" His thumb traced my lower lip, and I shivered. "You're not just my assistant, Amelia. You run this entire operation. You know things about my business that could destroy me. You have access to accounts, contracts, information that I trust no one else with. We're not employer and employee. We're partners. Partners don't kiss. These ones do. He leaned in, his breath warm against my face. Tell me to stop. Tell me this is a mistake, and we'll never speak of it again. We'll go back to professional distance, and I'll lock these feelings away. I should have told him to stop. Should have been the responsible one. Instead, I closed the distance between us and kissed him. This time I was sober. This time, I'd remember every detail. His hand tangling in my hair, pulling it free from its bun. His other hand at my waist, pulling me up and against him. The low sound he made when I bit his bottom lip. The taste of his morning coffee. The way he deepened the kiss until I was gasping against his mouth. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, his eyes were nearly black. This changes things, he said, his voice rough. I know. People will talk. There will be assumptions about how you got your position. Let them talk. Surprising myself with my certainty. I know what I've earned. His smile was fierce. Yes, you have. He pulled back, running a hand through his now disheveled hair. But we need to be careful. My world isn't just business, Amelia. There are people who would use you to get to me. I know what you are. I'd always known, really. The meetings that didn't appear on any calendar. The men with cold eyes who came and went. The way politicians and police chiefs deferred to him. I'm not naive about your business, Adrian. Knowing and understanding are different things. He moved to the window, looking out over the city. The Castellano family has been pushing against my territory for months. They see weakness anywhere they can exploit it. If they know you matter to me, then I become a target. I stood, moving to join him at the window. I understand the risk. Do you? He turned to face me. Do you understand that dating me means armed drivers and security details and never being truly alone in public? That it means dinners with men who've killed people and parties where everyone smiles while plotting each other's downfall? Are you trying to scare me away? I'm trying to be honest. His hand found mine, fingers intertwining. I want you, Amelia. I've wanted you for so long it's become a physical ache. But I won't put you in danger. If you choose this, choose me. You need to understand what you're accepting. I looked down at our joined hands. His larger, darker, marked with scars I'd never asked about. Mine smaller, softer, unmarked by violence. We shouldn't fit, but somehow we did. I choose you, I said quietly, danger and all. The intercom on his desk buzzed, shattering the moment. His secretary's voice, my replacement for the morning, came through. Mr. Cole, Victor is here with urgent news. Adrian's expression hardened instantly, the businessman replacing the vulnerable man who'd just confessed his feelings. He crossed to his desk, pressed the button. Send him in. Victor entered, his usual stoic expression tighter than normal. He glanced at me, then back to Adrian. We should speak privately. Anything you say to me you can say in front of Miss Chen. Victor's eyebrow raised fractionally, but he nodded. The warehouse on Pier 17. There was an incident last night. 3 of our shipments were intercepted. The guards were left alive, but marked. I saw Adrian's jaw clench. Castellano. Their calling card was left. They want a meeting. Of course they do. Adrian's hand curled into a fist on his desk. Set it up. Neutral ground. Tomorrow night. Boss. They're escalating. First the territory disputes, now direct attacks on our supply lines. This is about more than business. Adrian's eyes cut to me, then back to Victor. I'm aware. Victor followed his gaze. An understanding dawned on his face. I see. Then you know they'll use any leverage they can find. Which is why Miss Chen will have a security detail starting today. Diego and Marcus. Round the clock. Adrian, that's not necessary, I started. It's non-negotiable. His voice left no room for argument. Either you accept protection, or we end this before it begins. The ultimatum stung, but looking at the genuine fear in his eyes, fear for me, I relented. Fine, but they stay outside my apartment. Agreed. He turned back to Victor. Make the arrangements, and double security on all our vulnerable points. If Castellano wants a war, we'll give him one. After Victor left, Adrian slumped slightly against his desk, the weight of leadership visible for just a moment before he straightened again. This is what I meant, he said quietly. This is the world I'm bringing you into. I crossed to him, surprising us both by taking his face in my hands. Then we deal with it. Together. His arms came around me, pulling me close. For a long moment, we just stood there, holding each other while the city sprawled below us, unaware of the war brewing in its shadows. I need to prepare for tomorrow's meeting, he said finally. But tonight, have dinner with me. Not as my assistant, as whatever this is. A date? I smiled against his chest. Adrian Cole wants to take me on a date? I want to do a lot of things with you, Amelia. His voice dropped to that dangerous register that made my stomach flutter. Dating is just the beginning. The rest of the day passed in a surreal blur. I worked at my desk, fielding calls and managing Adrian's schedule, hyper-aware of him just beyond that door. Every time he called me in for dictation, the air between us crackled with electricity. His hand would brush mine passing documents. His eyes would linger a moment too long. At 3 p.m., 2 men appeared at my desk. One was tall and lean with dark hair, the other broader with a shaved head. Both had the telltale bulge of shoulder holsters beneath their jackets. Miss Chen? I'm Diego. This is Marcus. Mr. Cole asked us to provide security. I looked past them to Adrian's door, saw him watching through the glass. He nodded once. I don't need babysitters, I said, but without heat. Diego smiled slightly. Consider us very attentive shadows. They were true to their word. When I left at 6 p.m. to go home and change for dinner, they followed at a discreet distance. When I emerged from my apartment building an hour later in an emerald dress that I'd owned for 2 years, but never had occasion to wear, they were waiting by a black sedan. Mr. Cole asked us to drive you, Marcus explained. The restaurant was exclusive, the kind of place that required reservations months in advance and didn't list prices on the menu. Adrian was already there, standing when I approached. He'd changed into a charcoal suit that emphasized his broad shoulders, and the way he looked at me, hungry, possessive, reverent, made my knees weak. You're stunning, he said, pulling out my chair. You're not so bad yourself. Dinner was perfect. We talked about everything except work. My love of old movies, his passion for vintage cars, the trip to Paris I'd always wanted to take, the cabin in the mountains where he went to think. We laughed, really laughed, and I saw a side of Adrian I'd never glimpsed. Lighter, freer, almost boyish in his enthusiasm when discussing something he loved. I never thought I'd get to do this, I admitted over dessert. Sit across from you like this. Be with you like this. I've imagined it 1,000 times. His hand found mine across the table. Every boring dinner meeting, I'd picture you across from me instead. Every business trip, I'd wish you were there not as my assistant, but as mine. I've always been yours, Adrian. The confession came easily. I just didn't think you saw me that way. I've always seen you, Amelia. Every day. Every moment. His thumb stroked across my knuckles. You're the last thing I think about before sleep, and the first thought when I wake. The intensity in his voice made my breath catch. This was real. This was happening. We left the restaurant wrapped in each other, his arm around my waist, my head against his shoulder. Diego and Marcus trailed behind, and I'd almost forgotten they were there until Adrian tensed suddenly. "Get down." His voice was sharp, commanding. I barely had time to process before he was pushing me behind a car, his body covering mine. The sound of gunfire shattered the night, sharp cracks that echoed off buildings. Glass exploded somewhere behind us. People screamed. Diego and Marcus returned fire, their weapons appearing with practiced speed. Adrian kept me pinned beneath him, his heart hammering against my back, his breath hot against my ear. "Stay down," he ordered. "Don't move." It lasted maybe 30 seconds, though it felt like hours. Then silence, broken only by car alarms and distant sirens. "Clear!" Victor's voice came from somewhere to our left. When had he arrived? Adrian pulled back, his hands running over me frantically. "Are you hurt?" "Amelia, look at me. Are you hurt?" "I'm fine." My voice shook. "I'm okay." His hands cupped my face, and I saw something in his eyes I'd never seen before. Raw, absolute terror. "I'm sorry. God, Amelia, I'm so sorry. This is exactly what I was afraid of." "It's not your fault." "It is." He pulled me to my feet, keeping me close. "Castellano just declared war, and he used you to do it." The safe house was nothing like I'd imagined. I'd pictured something industrial, cold, utilitarian. Instead, Adrian brought me to a penthouse in one of his buildings. All floor-to-ceiling windows and expensive furniture. A gilded cage, with a breathtaking view of the city that had just tried to kill me. "You'll stay here until this is resolved." Adrian paced the living room like a caged animal, his jacket discarded, shoulder holster visible over his white shirt. Blood stained his sleeve. Not his own, he'd assured me, but the sight still made my stomach turn. For how long? I sat on the edge of a leather sofa, still wearing my emerald dress, though it was torn now at the hem where I'd caught it diving behind the car. "As long as it takes." He stopped pacing, ran both hands through his hair. "Castellano made his move. He knows you matter to me now. You're leverage. So I'm a prisoner. You're protected." His voice was sharp. "There's a difference." "Is there?" I stood, anger finally breaking through the shock. "You get to go about your life while I hide in a tower like some damsel in a fairy tale?" "This isn't a fairy tale, Amelia." He crossed to me, his eyes blazing. "This is real. Those bullets were real. If Victor hadn't been following us, if Diego and Marcus hadn't been there." His voice cracked slightly, and he turned away. "I can't lose you." The raw emotion in his voice deflated my anger. I moved behind him, placing my hand on his back. I felt him tense, then slowly relax under my touch. "Tell me about the first time," I said quietly. "The first time you noticed me. Really noticed me." He was silent for so long I thought he wouldn't answer. Then, "Your second week. You stayed late to finish the Morrison contract. I came out of my office at midnight, found you at your desk, asleep with your face on the keyboard. There was a coffee stain on your blouse, and your shoes were under your desk because your feet hurt. You looked so young, so dedicated, so real." I smiled despite everything. "I woke up with QWERTY imprinted on my cheek." "I know. I watched you wake up, saw you panic when you realized you'd fallen asleep." He turned to face me. "You didn't make excuses. Just printed the contract, had it on my desk before I arrived the next morning, and never mentioned it. I was terrified you'd fire me. I was terrified of how much I wanted to touch you." His hand came up to cup my face. I went home that night and told myself I was being ridiculous. You were my employee. It was inappropriate. But every day after that, it got harder to ignore. "When did you know?" I leaned into his touch. "That it was more than just attraction?" "The Senator Marsh incident. You were so fierce, so unafraid. You stood up to a man twice your size who could have destroyed your career with a phone call, and you did it to protect me." His thumb stroked my cheekbone. "I realized then that you weren't just beautiful or intelligent or capable. You were loyal. And in my world, loyalty is rarer than diamonds. I would never betray you, Adrian." "I know." He kissed me then, soft and sweet, so different from the passion of this morning. When he pulled back, his expression was grave. "Which is why I need to tell you everything. About who I really am. What I really do. No more carefully edited versions. If you're going to be with me, you need to know the truth." We sat together on the sofa, and he told me about his grandfather, who'd built an empire from nothing through sheer will and strategic violence. About his father, who died when Adrian was 19, leaving him to take control of a fractured organization. About the choices he'd made, the lines he'd crossed, the blood on his hands. "The Castellano family has been my enemy since before I inherited," he explained. "Old grudges, territorial disputes, the kind of hatred that gets passed down through generations. We've maintained an uneasy peace for years, but Marco Castellano is dying. Cancer. He has maybe 6 months. His son Vincent wants to consolidate power before his father's death, and that means eliminating threats. You're the biggest threat. I control the ports, the construction unions, half the judges. If Vincent can weaken me before his father dies, he'll have the support of the other families when he takes over." Adrian's hand found mine, gripping tight. "You became a target the moment I showed interest. I should have been more careful. Should have kept my distance until I'd secured your safety. I don't want safety if it means not having you." The words surprised me with their vehemence. "I spent 3 years watching you from across a desk, loving you in silence. I'm not giving you up now that I finally have you. You might not have a choice." His voice was bleak. "If Vincent convinces the other families that I'm weak, that I've become soft because of a woman, then we prove him wrong." I turned to face him fully. "I'm not some helpless damsel, Adrian. I've been running your empire's legitimate operations for 3 years. I know every contract, every deal, every alliance. Let me help." "Absolutely not. I won't put you in that position. I'm already in that position." My voice rose. "You said it yourself. I know too much. I'm already complicit in everything you do. The only difference is whether I'm cowering in a tower or standing beside you. You don't understand what you're asking. Then explain it to me." I grabbed his face, forcing him to look at me. "Stop trying to protect me from reality and give me the truth. All of it." He searched my eyes, and whatever he saw there made him nod slowly. "Tomorrow night, I meet with Vincent. Neutral ground, supposed to negotiate peace. But it's a trap. How do you know?" "Because it's what I would do." His smile was cold. "He'll make demands he knows I can't accept, then use my refusal as justification for escalation. By the end of the week, we'll be in open war." "What if you accept his demands?" "Impossible. He'll ask me to cede territory, give up port access, betray allies. Things that would destroy everything my family built." "What if there's a third option?" An idea was forming, reckless and probably insane. "What if I go with you?" "Absolutely not. Listen to me." I gripped his hands. "Vincent wants to prove you're weak because of me. So show him I make you stronger. Bring me to the meeting. Let me participate. Show every family there that I'm not some secret shame you're hiding, but a partner. You're asking me to paint a target on your back. The target's already there, Adrian. At least this way, I control how I'm perceived." I squeezed his hands. "Trust me. The way I've always trusted you." He was quiet for a long time, studying our joined hands. Finally, If you do this, you follow my lead completely. You don't speak unless I tell you to. You don't leave my side for a second. And if things go wrong, they won't. If they do, he continued firmly, Victor will get you out. You don't argue, you don't hesitate. You let him protect you. Promise me. I promise. He pulled me into his arms, holding me so tight I could barely breathe. I don't deserve you, he murmured against my hair. Too bad. You're stuck with me. We stayed like that for a long time, taking comfort in each other's presence. Eventually, he pulled back, stroking my hair from my face. You should rest. Tomorrow will be difficult. Stay with me? The request came out smaller than I'd intended. I don't want to be alone tonight. I'll stay as long as you need me. He stood, offering his hand. Come on, I'll show you the bedroom. The master bedroom was as luxurious as the rest of the penthouse. Adrian gave me one of his shirts to sleep in, and I changed in the bathroom, staring at my reflection in the mirror. My carefully applied makeup was smudged, my hair a mess, my eyes too wide with lingering fear. This was my life now. Gunfire and safe houses and meetings with men who killed without remorse. And somehow, I was choosing it. Choosing him. When I emerged, Adrian was sitting on the edge of the bed, his shirt unbuttoned, revealing the muscled chest I'd only glimpsed before. Scars marked his skin, evidence of a violent life I was only beginning to understand. What are those from? I moved closer, drawn despite myself. Reminders. His voice was rough. Of lessons learned and enemies who got too close. I reached out, tracing the longest scar, a puckered line across his ribs. Does it hurt? Not anymore. His hand caught mine, pressing it flat against his chest. I could feel his heart beating, strong and steady. The only thing that hurts now is the thought of losing you. You won't. I climbed onto the bed beside him, and he pulled me close, my back against his chest, his arms wrapped securely around me. Sleep, Amelia, he murmured. I'll keep watch. You need to sleep too. I will, later, when I'm sure you're safe. I wanted to argue, but exhaustion was pulling me under. The adrenaline crash, the emotional toll, the comfort of his arms. It all combined to drag me towards sleep. Adrian, I mumbled, already half gone. I love you. Even knowing everything. I love you. His arms tightened. I love you too, Amelia. More than I thought I could love anyone. More than is probably safe for either of us. I smiled against his chest and let sleep take me, dreaming of bullets turned to rose petals and wars won with words instead of blood. I woke to the smell of coffee and the sound of Adrian's voice, sharp and commanding, coming from the living room. Sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, and for a moment, I forgot where I was. Then memory returned. The shooting, the safe house, Adrian's confession. I pulled on a robe I found hanging in the closet and padded barefoot toward his voice. I don't care what Marcus Petrov wants, Adrian was saying into his phone, pacing before the windows in dark slacks and a half-buttoned white shirt. Tell him the answer is no. If he can't maintain control of his own territory, that's his problem, not mine. He noticed me, and something in his expression softened. He held up a finger, 1 minute, and I nodded, moving to the kitchen where an elaborate breakfast spread waited. Croissants, fresh fruit, coffee in an expensive French press. Even in a crisis, Adrian maintained certain standards. We're done here. He ended the call and crossed to me, his hands framing my face as he kissed me thoroughly. Good morning. Good morning. I smiled against his mouth. That was quite a wake-up. I've been awake for hours watching you sleep. I needed to do that before I went insane. He poured me coffee, adding cream exactly how I liked it without asking. "How do you feel?" "Surprisingly well, considering I was shot at last night." His jaw tightened. "That won't happen again. I've tripled your security detail. Adrian, non-negotiable." He handed me the coffee. "Diego, Marcus, and 4 others. They'll rotate shifts. You won't see most of them, but they'll be there." I wanted to argue about the necessity, but looking at the fear lingering in his eyes, I simply nodded. Okay. Okay? He seemed surprised by my easy agreement. "You need this. I understand that." I took a sip of coffee. "So, what's the plan for tonight?" "We meet Vincent at Luciano's at 8. It's a restaurant owned by the Russo family, neutral territory. Antonio Russo will mediate." He leaned against the counter. "The families will all have representatives there. It's theater as much as negotiation." "What should I wear?" "Something that says you belong at my side. Elegant, but not ostentatious. We want to project power, not desperation." He pulled me close. "Are you sure about this, Amelia? It's not too late to change your mind." "I'm sure." I wrapped my arms around his waist. "We're in this together, remember?" The day passed in a strange limbo. Adrian worked from the penthouse, taking calls and video conferences while I went through his schedule, maintaining the illusion of normalcy. But armed men patrolled the building, and every time a car backfired in the street below, my heart raced. At 6, a team arrived with clothing options. A rack of designer dresses that must have cost more than my yearly salary. Adrian selected a midnight blue dress with a fitted bodice and flowing skirt, elegant and understated. "Perfect," he said, running his fingers down the fabric. "You'll outshine everyone there." "That's not the goal." "No. The goal is to make every man in that room understand that you're mine, and I'm strong enough to protect what's mine." His hand slid to my waist, pulling me close. "And to make Vincent realize that using you against me will only make me more dangerous." A stylist arrived at 7 to do my hair and makeup. She worked quickly, creating an elegant updo with a few loose tendrils framing my face. The makeup was dramatic, smoky eyes and deep red lips that made me look sophisticated, dangerous even. When I emerged from the bedroom, Adrian was waiting in the living room, devastating in a black suit that emphasized his broad shoulders. The look in his eyes when he saw me was pure hunger. "If we didn't have this meeting," he said, his voice rough, "I'd have that dress off you in seconds." Heat flooded through me. "Rain check?" "Definitely." He offered his arm. "Ready?" The drive to Luciano's was tense. Victor drove with Diego in the passenger seat, while Marcus followed in a second car with additional security. Adrian held my hand the entire way, his thumb tracing patterns on my palm that might have been soothing if I weren't so aware of the gun in his shoulder holster. "Remember," he said quietly, "you don't speak unless I ask you to. You stay by my side. And if anything happens, Victor gets me out. I remember." I squeezed his hand. "I trust you, Adrian." Luciano's was an old-school Italian restaurant, the kind of place with red leather booths and dim lighting where deals had been made and broken for generations. We were led to a private room in the back, and my breath caught at the scene that greeted us. A large table dominated the space, already surrounded by men in expensive suits. I recognized some from photos Adrian had shown me. Antonio Russo, the mediator, with his silver-streaked hair and kind eyes that masked a ruthless intelligence. Marco Castellano, pale and gaunt from his illness, but still commanding respect. And beside him, Vincent Castellano, younger than his father, but with the same cold eyes. All conversation stopped when we entered. "Adrian." Antonio stood, offering his hand. "Thank you for coming. And who is this lovely companion?" "This is Amelia Chen," Adrian said, his hand firm on my waist. "My partner, in all things." The emphasis on all things wasn't lost on anyone. Vincent's eyes narrowed, while Marco's expression remained neutral. How unexpected. Vincent's smile didn't reach his eyes. I wasn't aware you'd be bringing a date to a business meeting. Miss Chen isn't a date. Adrian pulled out a chair for me, positioning it close to his own. She's my second in command. Anything you say to me, you say to her. The power play was brilliant. By presenting me as integral to his operation, Adrian was turning Vincent's perceived weakness into strength. Shall we begin? Antonio took his seat at the head of the table. We're here to discuss the recent tensions between the Cole and Castellano organizations. Tensions? Adrian's voice was cold. Your son's men opened fire on a public street last night. That's not tension. That's an act of war. You have no proof it was us, Vincent replied smoothly. I have your calling card, the same one left at my warehouse the night before. Adrian leaned back in his chair, deceptively relaxed. Let's not insult each other's intelligence. Marco Castellano coughed, a wet sound that spoke of dying lungs. When he recovered, his voice was surprisingly strong. My son may have been overzealous, but you've been encroaching on our territory for months, Cole. The port expansion, the union contracts. You're trying to squeeze us out. I'm expanding my legitimate business operations. If that puts pressure on your illegal activities, perhaps you should adapt. Adrian's hand found mine under the table, squeezing gently. But I'm willing to discuss reasonable boundaries. Reasonable. Vincent laughed harshly. What would you consider reasonable? You giving up the northern ports? Stopping your construction projects in our neighborhoods? I'll give up nothing I've legally acquired. Adrian's voice went deadly quiet. But I'm willing to formalize our current territories. No encroachment on either side. Mutual non-aggression. And what guarantees do we have? Marco asked. That you'll honor such an agreement? This was my cue. Adrian had prepared me for this moment. I pulled a folder from my bag. Documents I'd prepared earlier outlining existing territories, proposed boundaries, and contract terms. I slid it across the table to Antonio. Mr. Cole is offering a legally binding contract, I said, my voice steady despite my racing heart. Backed by neutral arbitration from Mr. Russo. Any violations would be subject to review and agreed-upon consequences. Vincent's eyes cut to me, assessing. And who are you to speak for Cole's business? I'm the person who's managed his legitimate operations for 5 years. I met his gaze steadily. I handle his contracts, his legal exposure, his relationships with city officials. If you're looking for someone who understands the value of enforceable agreements, that would be me. A long silence followed. Then Marco reached for the folder, flipping through the pages with surprising speed for someone so ill. This is comprehensive, he admitted, more than I expected. Mr. Cole doesn't do anything by half measures, I said. Neither do I. Adrian's hand tightened on mine under the table. Approval, pride, and something darker that sent heat through me. I need time to review this with my advisors, Marco said finally. A week. You have 3 days, Adrian replied. After that, the offer expires and we settle this the traditional way. Vincent's face darkened. You're threatening us. I'm offering you a choice, peace or war. Both are acceptable to me. Adrian stood, pulling me up with him. But understand this. If you choose war, I'll destroy you. Completely. And I won't feel the slightest remorse about it. The drive back to the penthouse was silent until we were safely inside, the door locked, security posted in the hallway. Then Adrian pushed me against the door and kissed me with a desperation that stole my breath. You were perfect, he murmured against my mouth. So perfect. Did you see Vincent's face when you laid out that contract? He didn't expect you to be an equal player. I am an equal player. I pulled at his jacket, kneading it off, needing less between us. I told you I wouldn't be weak. You've never been weak. His hands found the zipper of my dress, sliding it down with agonizing slowness. You're the strongest person I know. And you're mine. Yours, I agreed, gasping as his mouth found my neck. Always yours. We barely made it to the bedroom. 3 days. That's how long we had to wait for Marco Castellano's answer. 3 days that I spent in the penthouse with Adrian, working during the day as though everything was normal, while armed guards patrolled and tensions escalated across the city. But the nights were ours. Adrian showed me sides of himself I'd never imagined. The way he cooked breakfast in just his boxers, humming off key to himself. The gentleness with which he traced my features as we lay tangled in sheets. The fierce possessiveness when I mentioned returning to my own apartment. You're not going back there, he'd said firmly on the second morning, his arms tightening around me. It's not safe. I can't live in a safe house forever, Adrian. Who said anything about a safe house? He'd kissed my shoulder, my neck, the spot behind my ear that made me shiver. Move in with me, properly. Not as my assistant hiding in a penthouse, but as my partner. That's fast. I've wanted you for years, Amelia. We've already wasted enough time. His hand had slid down my body, making coherent thought difficult. Say yes. I'd said yes. How could I not when he touched me like I was precious, looked at me like I was his entire world? But on the third day, reality intruded. I was working at the desk in the study, a space Adrian had set up for me with 2 monitors and all the access I needed to manage his operations, when Victor appeared in the doorway. Miss Chen, there's someone here to see you. I frowned. I'm not expecting anyone. She says she's your sister. My blood ran cold. I don't have a sister. Victor's expression tightened. She has identification. Showed it to security downstairs. Maya Chen. Relation listed as sibling. Maya. My half-sister from my father's second marriage. We'd met exactly twice. Once at his funeral. Once when she'd asked me for money I didn't have. I'd lost touch with her years ago. Send her away, I said. I don't want... Amelia. A voice echoed from the foyer, high and dramatic. Amelia, please. I need your help. Adrian emerged from his office, his expression dark. What's going on? My half-sister. I haven't seen her in 5 years. I don't know how she found me. I can make her leave. Victor's hand moved toward his jacket. No. I stood, straightening my shoulders. I'll talk to her. Maybe she'll leave on her own. Maya hadn't changed much. Still beautiful in that calculated way, with perfectly highlighted hair and designer clothes that she probably couldn't afford. But there was a desperation in her eyes I'd never seen before. Amelia. She rushed forward, grabbing my hands. Thank God. I've been trying to reach you for weeks, but your old number didn't work, and... Her eyes went past me to Adrian, and I saw calculation replace desperation. Oh, you must be Mr. Cole. I've read about you. What do you want, Maya? I pulled my hands free. I'm in trouble. Her eyes filled with tears, real or manufactured, I couldn't tell. I borrowed money from some bad people. They're threatening me, Amelia. I have nowhere else to turn. How much? 50,000. I nearly laughed. I don't have $50,000, Maya. But he does. She looked at Adrian. Please, Mr. Cole, I'm Amelia's sister, family. Surely you wouldn't want anything to happen to me. Adrian's expression was colder than I'd ever seen it. Who do you owe? Maya's hesitation told me everything. Some guys, I don't know their names. You're lying. Adrian's voice cut like a blade. Victor, call Marcus. Have him run a background check. I want to know everyone Maya Chen has associated with in the last 6 months. That's not necessary, Maya started. It's very necessary. Adrian moved to stand beside me, his hand settling possessively on my waist. Because either you're telling the truth and you're in legitimate danger, in which case I'll handle it, or you're working for someone, in which case you have about 30 seconds to tell me who before I have Victor escort you out with significantly less courtesy. Maya's face crumpled. Fine, Vincent Castellano sent me. He said if I got close to Amelia, made her sympathetic, he'd forgive my actual debt. 20,000, not 50. I'm sorry, Amelia. I didn't have a choice. The betrayal stung, even though Maya and I barely knew each other. Get out. Amelia, please. You used me. You put me in danger for $20,000. Anger replaced hurt. Get out of this building before I have you arrested. Victor stepped forward, and Maya scrambled backward, her tears real now. Wait. Adrian's voice stopped everyone. He pulled out his phone, tapped a few buttons, then showed Maya the screen. This is a transfer of $50,000 to your account. Not 20. 50. Maya's eyes widened. Why? Because now you owe me. And when Vincent Castellano asks what happened here, you're going to tell him exactly what you saw. That Amelia is protected. That she's untouchable. That anyone who tries to use her against me will regret it. His voice went deadly soft. And if you ever contact her again, if you ever try to use your family connection to get to her, I'll make sure that $50,000 is the most expensive money you've ever received. Understood? Maya nodded frantically and fled. After she was gone, I turned to Adrian. You just gave her $50,000. I gave Vincent Castellano a message. He pulled me close. That I'm willing to spend any amount to protect you. That trying to use your connections against me won't work. She's not really my connection. We barely know each other. He doesn't know that. Adrian kissed my forehead. And now he knows that even your peripheral relationships are protected. It makes you less vulnerable, not more. I sagged against him, the adrenaline draining away. I hate this. The paranoia, the constant threat assessment, the way everyone becomes a potential weapon. I know. His arms tightened around me. I'm sorry. I wish I could give you a normal life. I don't want normal. I pulled back to look at him. I want you. I just wish you came with less baggage. Unfortunately, I'm a package deal. Me, my empire, my enemies, and my paranoia. He tucked a strand of hair behind my ear. Still want to move in? More than ever. I kissed him. Someone needs to protect you from yourself. His laugh rumbled through his chest. I think you have that backward. Do I? I pulled him toward the bedroom. Because from where I'm standing, you're the one who needs protecting. You're so busy taking care of everyone else that you forget to take care of yourself. I don't need... When's the last time you slept more than 4 hours? I challenged. Or ate a meal that wasn't between meetings? Or did anything just because you wanted to? Not because it served some strategic purpose? He was quiet. That's what I thought. I pushed him onto the bed, straddling his lap. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to let me take care of you for once, and you're not going to argue. I don't take orders well, he said, but his hands were already settling on my hips. I've noticed. I unbuttoned his shirt slowly. Consider it a negotiation. I let you protect me from your enemies. You let me protect you from yourself. I can live with those terms. He pulled me down for a kiss that started gentle and quickly turned desperate. That night, as we lay tangled together, his phone buzzed. He reached for it, then went very still. What is it? I asked. Marco Castellano. He's agreed to our terms. Adrian's voice was carefully neutral. The contract will be signed tomorrow. The war is over before it really began. I should have been relieved. Instead, unease prickled down my spine. That was too easy. I thought the same thing. He pulled me closer. Which is why we're doubling security for the signing, and why you're staying here with Victor while I go. No. I sat up. We do this together, remember? I was there for the negotiation. I should be there for the signing. Amelia, if this is a trap, they'll expect you to leave me somewhere safe. Showing up with me proves you're not afraid, that you trust your own security. I gripped his shoulders. Let me stand with you, Adrian. Please. He studied my face in the dim light, then sighed. You're going to be the death of me. Or your salvation. I kissed him. One or the other. Both, he murmured against my mouth. Definitely both. The signing was scheduled for noon at Antonio Russo's estate, a sprawling property north of the city with enough land that threats could be seen coming from miles away. Adrian dressed in his most severe suit, black with a crisp white shirt that emphasized his dark coloring. I wore a tailored cream dress that projected professional power without being overtly sexual. You look like a queen, Adrian said, adjusting my necklace. A simple strand of pearls that had belonged to his mother. He'd given them to me that morning with a quiet, I want you to have these. You look like a king. Together, we look like we own the world. He kissed me softly. Ready? The drive took 40 minutes, our convoy of 3 armored vehicles moving through the city like a small motorcade. Diego drove our car, with Victor in the passenger seat, and Marcus following in the second vehicle. The third car held 4 additional guards, all armed to the teeth. This seems excessive for a contract signing, I observed. Nothing is excessive when it comes to your safety. Adrian's hand found mine, gripping tight. Antonio's estate was beautiful. Rolling lawns, mature trees, a main house that looked like it belonged in Tuscany. But I noticed the security cameras, the men positioned at strategic points, the guard towers disguised as decorative structures. We were escorted to a study where Marco and Vincent Castellano waited with Antonio. The contract lay on the desk between them, several pages of legal language that formalized the verbal agreement we'd reached. Adrian, Miss Chen. Antonio greeted us warmly. Thank you for coming. Shall we conclude our business? The signing took less than 10 minutes. Marco's signature was shaky, his illness advancing rapidly, but legal. Vincent signed next, then Adrian, his handwriting bold and decisive. I added my signature as witness, making the contract binding. To peace, Antonio said, pouring glasses of expensive whiskey for everyone. We toasted, and I saw Vincent watching me over his glass, his expression calculating. Something about his gaze made my skin crawl. If you'll excuse me, I said quietly to Adrian, I need to use the restroom. His hand tightened on mine. Victor will escort you. I'll be fine. It's just down the hall. Victor escorts you. His tone left no room for argument. I nodded, and Victor fell into step behind me as I left the study. The hallway was quiet, decorated with expensive art and family photos. I found the bathroom and went inside, taking a moment to breathe. This was it. The war was over. We could go back to normal, or whatever passed for normal in Adrian's world. I was washing my hands when I heard voices outside, men arguing in Italian. I recognized Vincent's voice, though I couldn't understand the words. Then a second voice. Younger, angrier. The door burst open. A man I didn't recognize stood there, gun in hand, his eyes wild. You're coming with me. I opened my mouth to scream, but he was faster, pressing the gun against my ribs. Make a sound, and I'll kill you right here. My mind raced. Victor was right outside. One scream and he'd come running. But the gun pressing against my ribs was very real, and the man holding it looked desperate enough to use it. Marco Castellano is dying, the man hissed in accented English. Vincent needs leverage. You're it. He started dragging me toward a service door I hadn't noticed. My heart hammered. If he got me outside, into a car... I stomped down hard on his instep and threw my elbow back into his stomach. The gun went off, the sound deafening in the small space, but the bullet hit tile instead of flesh. I screamed, long and loud. The bathroom door exploded inward. Victor appeared, weapon drawn, and the gunman swung toward him. Another shot. Victor went down. No. The gunman grabbed me again, but I fought like a wild thing, scratching, kicking, biting. He hit me across the face with the gun, and stars exploded in my vision. Then suddenly Adrian was there, moving with lethal grace. What happened next took seconds but felt like slow motion. Adrian grabbed the gunman's wrist, twisted, and the gun clattered to the floor. A knee to the stomach, an elbow to the face, the crack of bone. The gunman collapsed, and Adrian was on him, fists flying with controlled violence that was terrifying in its precision. Adrian. My voice came out wrong, slurred. Adrian, stop. You'll kill him. He looked up, and the fury in his eyes made me flinch. Then he saw the blood on my face, and something shattered in his expression. Amelia. He was beside me in an instant, hands gentle as they cupped my face. Cristo, you're bleeding. I'm okay. Victor, I'm fine. Victor's voice came from near the door, rough with pain. Kevlar caught it, bruised ribs, nothing permanent. Adrian pulled me against his chest, his whole body shaking. I almost lost you. But you didn't. I held him tight. I'm here. I'm okay. Marco and Vincent burst into the hallway, taking in the scene. The unconscious gunman, Victor holding his ribs, blood streaking my face, Adrian holding me like I might disappear. What the hell is this? Marco demanded. Ask your son. Adrian's voice was deadly calm as he pulled back to look at Vincent. This was your man, your plan. I don't know what you're talking about. But Vincent's face had gone pale. He told me, I said, finding my voice, that Vincent needed leverage now that you're dying, that I was it. Marco turned to his son, fury and disappointment warring on his gaunt features. You tried to kidnap her, after we just signed a peace treaty? She's his weakness. Vincent gestured at Adrian. Everyone can see it. He's obsessed with her. If you controlled her, I would have burned your entire organization to the ground. Adrian's voice was soft, but it carried absolute conviction. And I still might. You can't. Vincent's desperation was palpable. We have a contract you violated within an hour of signing. Adrian pulled out his phone, and I realized he'd been recording. He'd recorded everything. Vincent's man confessing, the attempted kidnapping, all of it. This goes to every family in the city, Adrian continued. They'll see that the Castellanos can't be trusted, that Vincent is desperate and dangerous. By tomorrow you'll be isolated, and by next week you'll be finished. Unless, I heard myself say. Everyone turned to look at me. Unless Vincent steps down, publicly, names someone else as his father's successor, someone who understands the value of peace. Adrian's eyes cut to mine, surprised but approving. Marco studied me for a long moment, then nodded slowly. The girl is wise. Vincent, you've proven you're not fit to lead. Father, my decision is made. Marco's voice held absolute authority despite his weakened state. You'll step down. Marco Jr. will succeed me when I die. He has his mother's temperament, less impulsive, more strategic. Vincent's face contorted with rage, but he was smart enough to know he'd lost. Fine. But this isn't over, Cole. Yes, Adrian said quietly. It is. Come near Amelia again. Even breathe in her direction, and I'll make you disappear so completely that no one will ever find the body. We clear?" Vincent didn't answer, just turned and stalked away. After the police were called, statements given, and the chaos somewhat settled, Adrian drove me back to the penthouse himself. His hands were white-knuckled on the steering wheel, his jaw tight. "Say something," I finally said. "I could have lost you." His voice was raw. "If I'd been 5 seconds slower, if you hadn't fought back." "But I did fight back. And you weren't slow, and I'm fine." "You're not fine. You were pistol whipped. You have a concussion. You—" His voice broke. "Christo, Amelia. I can't breathe when I think about what almost happened." "Then don't think about it." I reached over, placing my hand on his thigh. "Think about what did happen. We won. Vincent's out. Marco's agreed to peace. It's over. It's never over." But his hand covered mine, gripping tight. "This is my world. There will always be another Vincent, another threat, another attempt. Then we'll deal with them." I squeezed his hand. Together. Back at the penthouse, Adrian was everywhere, running me a bath, checking my pupils for concussion, holding ice to my bruised cheekbone. His hands shook as he touched me, and I realized how terrified he'd been. "Adrian," I caught his hands, stilling them. "I need you to listen to me. I'm listening. I'm not leaving. Not because of this, not because of any future threat. I'm staying because I love you. Because this," I gestured between us, "is worth fighting for. You could have died. But I didn't. And you know what I realized when that gun was pressed against my ribs? That I'd rather have 1 year with you, living dangerously, than a lifetime of safety without you." I pulled him close. "So stop trying to push me away for my own good. It won't work." He rested his forehead against mine. "You're the bravest person I know. Or the stupidest." "No," he kissed me softly. "The bravest. And I don't deserve you. Too bad. You're stuck with me." That night, he made love to me with a tenderness that brought tears to my eyes, worshipping every inch of skin, murmuring Italian endearments I didn't understand but felt in my bones. And afterward, as we lay tangled together, he said the words I'd been waiting to hear. "Marry me." I pulled back to look at him. "What?" "Marry me, Amelia." His hand cupped my face, not because of security or appearances or strategy. "Marry me because I love you more than I thought it was possible to love anyone. Because you're my partner, my equal, my home. Because I want to spend every day for the rest of my life proving I'm worthy of you. You don't have to prove anything. Then marry me because you want to. Because we fit. Because this—" He gestured between us, echoing my earlier words, "is worth making permanent." I smiled through happy tears. "Yes, yes, I'll marry you." His kiss was fierce and claiming, and when we came together again, it felt like a promise. A vow more binding than any legal contract. 2 months later, I stood in a private garden surrounded by flowers, wearing a dress that cost more than my first car, and married Adrian Cole in front of a small gathering of his most trusted people. Victor was there, ribs healed, serving as best man. Diego and Marcus stood as groomsmen. Antonio Russo officiated, his warm smile genuine, and when Adrian slid the ring onto my finger, a stunning emerald surrounded by diamonds, and promised to love, honor, and protect me for all our days, I knew I'd made the right choice. This life wouldn't be easy. There would be more threats, more Vincents, more attempts to use me as leverage. But we'd face them together, united in a love that had started with a drunk confession and a kiss and grown into something unshakable. I now pronounce you husband and wife, Antonio said. You may kiss your bride. Adrian pulled me close, and the kiss was everything. Passion and promise, possession and partnership, past and future. Mine, he murmured against my lips. Ours, I corrected, and felt him smile. Yes, ours. Together. Always.